There are places where people talk, and then there are places that people talk about. News Radio WGNS is both on air, online, and on the phone. The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Welcome in to the Wednesday Roundtable. Lots of news, views, politics, and people, just like John Young said on the open. And welcome into this Wednesday edition of the Roundtable. Chip Walters here with you. Chris Davis of Channel 5 is going to be our guest, the Capitol Hill reporter, and I'm going to give Brian Barrett, our producer, a little on the fly here. And Brian, we're going to, obviously, Chris and I are going to be talking about elections on a statewide basis, but last night, fairly uneventful in Murfreesboro, in Rutherford County, one major contested race, and that was for the assessor of property, and that one was over fairly early.
Yeah, it was. As soon as we got the early voting totals, everything throughout the night just kind of stayed about where it was. Several school board races, but some winning, the winners taking 60, even in one case over 70% of the vote. The Smyrna referendum vote was a bit surprising that it was as lopsided as it was.
Now, explain what that was.
So in a roundabout way, they were trying to change the city's charter to eliminate the city court that they have, and that was a resolution that was sent by the town council, and the people got to vote on that, and a yes vote was to do just that, eliminate it, and the no vote was to actually keep, and it was 70 some odd percent to 30%. So it was pretty resounding no vote last night.
Well, and that's one of those situations where on a resolution where, you know, yes means no and no means yes, and it's depending on how referendums are written. And that's always kind of interesting.
Well, I did hear from one person who came in, and I thought their logic was pretty sound. Most people, if they don't know, or even if they do know, they're going to vote no more times than not on stuff like that, just because it's a referendum. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting take.
Yeah. All right. There's a bit of an update on the local part of the election. Let's head to the capital city and the Capitol Hill reporter for News Channel 5, Chris Davis, and as I like to say, friend of the show. Chris, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great, Chip. Thanks for having me again.
Good deal. Good deal. You know, and sometimes, you know, I try to get the timing right. I didn't know, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on around the holidays right before the legislative session begins, and it didn't work out to have you then. I thought, okay, let's do it right after the election, kind of get a tone of what's going on Capitol Hill from yesterday's election from a statewide perspective. And also now we're a month and a half in, or a little more than that now, I guess, into the legislative session. So some of the sausage is being ground up, and we're getting close to some resolutions on some things. But yesterday, obviously across the state, on the Republican side, Donald Trump with 77% of the vote, Nikki Haley with just over 19.5%. And it's my understanding, according to CBS News, that today she will suspend her campaign. And on the Democratic side, President Biden with 92% of the vote, uncommitted Democratic voters with only about 10,000 votes, which was about 8%. No real surprises across the state yesterday as far as the election, and you know, one of the things is turnout, and you know, it looks like for really a fairly non-eventful primary and a rainy day across the state, the turnout was not all that bad.
Yeah, you know, Rutherford County actually saw a pretty good turnout.
Right.
Probably some of those local races that you all said, you know, definitely played a big role. But like you said, unsuspenseful election night. I was home by 8 o'clock last night. And
Wow.
a lot of times election nights are late night affairs in a newsroom because things went exactly how everyone expected. Donald Trump has been unstoppable in the Republican primaries so far. Nikki Haley only won one state last night, Vermont. Before that, she had not won any states, just the District of Columbia. So this was just kind of how the script, as you might say, was expected to go, especially now that Nikki Haley is stepping down from the Republican primary. I think you're going to see this moving forward. But certainly we were at a polling location in Sylvan Park here in Davidson County. And the rain certainly played a role in a little diminishing turnout, but also there wasn't a whole lot on the Davidson County local ballot, which I think also played a role. Usually we see pretty good turnout for presidential primaries when it's contested. Of course, yesterday you could argue it wasn't really contested on either side. We kind of knew what the outcome might be.
Of course, the general election coming up in November, that will that's when obviously the president is actually selected across the country, and that will have obviously it's always the biggest turnout of any election there is, and I know the Rutherford County election is in August. What about it as far as statewide offices? And I don't mean to put you on the spot there, but what is the timetable there of what's going on?
So really, you will have Tennessee House of Representatives will be all of them will be up for election. They have 2-year terms. So typically, you see up at the legislature, they try to get out of town as early as they can because they can't actively fundraise until they're out of session. So, the clock runs a little bit faster on these second years of General Assemblies.
Funny how
have some work to do.
Funny how that works out.
Yeah, funny how that works out. That's right. You will have some Tennessee Senate seats that will be up for their elections because they're every 4 years. So about half will be up for election there as well. But governor still has 2 years in his term. And so no necessarily statewide offices up this go around, except for in the U.S. Senate, Marsha Blackburn will have to run for re-election, and Representative Gloria Johnson of Knoxville is expected to be the nominee in that race. Yeah,
and it's going to be interesting, too, since the congressional races, Mark Green has decided to get back in and will be running against apparently Megan Barry. So that will have some interest to it as well. So, there's always, as you mentioned, plenty of activity going on, especially every 2 years. I guess when you hit these even numbered years, that's when especially your entire House of Representatives across the state, all of that, and all of your congressional members have to go up. So that will make the ballot a little more full coming up in November.
Absolutely, and we'll see the primaries for those, I think, in August, along with the full municipal election. So yeah, you will definitely see a lot more election activity in those races. And November, I think, will be a huge turnout election because you have a lot of people that think a lot's at stake, especially at the top of the ballot when it comes to the presidential race.
Okay, let's put the crystal ball out in front of Chris here and look ahead to 2 years, because I think this will be an important gubernatorial election in 2 years, and it's Tennessee has been heavy red. I'm curious, who are you hearing that may be ready to throw a hat in the ring on the Republican side, as well as are the Democrats ready to find a candidate that can mount a challenge?
On the Republican side, hearing a lot of names. I want to start with one you've already mentioned. Mark Green is widely expected to throw his hat into the gubernatorial race, which is why I think the belief was he wanted to step aside from Congress this first time around. And I think he had some people saying, no, we need you in that seat, at least for another 2 years. So Mark Green is certainly a name we're hearing a lot. Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton is certainly a name. When you try to ask him about that, he tries to distance himself a little bit, but that is certainly the talk on the Hill. And then out of Knoxville, Glenn Jacobs is widely expected to also
Kane
with a little WWE
Kane
fandom. Yes,
the Big Red Machine. He is. So that would be. So I think that would be really interesting. He would, if he wanted, he would be the first wrestling governor since Jesse Ventura.
I believe you're right. I believe you're right, Chip.
Wow, that would.
But I think
that would make for an interesting campaign because he has no filter.
Exactly. And so I think you will see with, people like Mark Green, who his name is well known in Middle Tennessee, may expand that reach out to West and East. You have Speaker Sexton, who's doing a lot out in West Tennessee to try to probably, increase his name recognition out there. Glenn Jacobs will probably make some trips into Nashville and into Memphis too to spread awareness. But that campaign, whether people want to say it or not, has quietly begun with people trying to get their name recognition out there for a primary. And then you may also see something like what we saw with Governor Bill Lee. He was a political newcomer. Everybody kind of thought maybe a Beth Harwell or someone else may be the heir apparent to Governor Haslam. And then Bill Lee, a businessman in Tennessee, steps in and upends the race. So we could see that too.
Yeah. And so that'll be interesting. What about on the Democratic side? Are you hearing any rumblings there at all at this point?
Have not heard any names yet. Certainly, I'm sure they're behind closed doors, there are conversations being had, but to your point, they have a lot of ground to cover to try to make that a competitive race. I do think that, with last year's national attention to the Tennessee 3, could you see, I don't know if you would see one of those specific individuals of those, of Justin Jones, Justin Pierce, and Gloria Johnson run for governor, but they're certainly trying to use that momentum that they feel like they had from that situation last year to try to correspond into some sort of movement of getting a statewide office back in Tennessee, which they haven't had in, about 12 years.
Yeah. Speaking of those three, and the momentum that you mentioned, did you see the program on CNN that Van Jones did over the weekend that, put their situation and how it all unfolded on a national stage? And I thought it was very interesting. And obviously it seemed to come from a certain point of view, but it's still, there were a lot of facts out there. And your colleague, Phil, was out on there to talk about it as well.
Yeah, I did watch it. I think, to your point, I think the larger role that it probably served was telling that story to a wider national audience that may not know as much context. I think for a lot of people here in Tennessee that follow this on a routine basis, that there wasn't necessarily new ground plowed by that CNN program, but it certainly was an interesting perspective, and they certainly collected a lot of interviews from a lot of different perspectives. Representative Gino Bolso from Williamson County, a Republican, several members of the Tennessee 3 on the Democratic side, Sumner County Republicans, other people like that, to kind of help tell the story about how Tennessee politics has really transitioned from the era of Democratic, almost exclusive rule for generations to, a strong Republican supermajority for the last 12 years or so.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think what the name it was. I can't remember the name of the show now, but it was Van Jones who did it. It was, but it was CNN reports
the whole
story. That's
Anderson
right.
Cooper,
The whole story with Anderson Cooper. And one of the things I thought one of the most interesting facts I thought that came out of it was I did not realize that Van Jones was from Tennessee and had been an intern for Jimmy Nafee when Mr. Nafee was Speaker of the House.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That was something that was I had no idea. Hails from Jackson, Tennessee, and worked at the state legislature before going out west to California.
Well, before we take our first break, I want to talk a little bit about our guest, Chris Davis, who is this your second year in the Capitol Hill role? You got your baptism by fire a year ago.
Yeah, last year I asked a couple veteran reporters up on the Hill, is it always like this? And they said, well, it's been a little bit more testy, but nothing quite like what we saw last year. And I think that we certainly put that to the test.
Yep. When you moved into that role, was from being a general assignment reporter to where you're, hyper focused on state government. How did that change your day-to-day roles? I guess as a general assignment reporter, were you were enterprising a lot of things, I guess, where, if you're in the Capitol Hill role, which you are now, you kind of, it's the tail wagging the dog.
That's a good way to put it, Chip. I mean, I joke with people, I wish I could keep up with all the Middle Tennessee news that goes on for the 4 months or so that the legislature is going on, but I have to kind of eat and breathe and sleep that world while they are in session, because I've joked it's like drinking out of a fire hose. On any given day, there are 60 to 80 pieces of legislation that are being considered in committees or about to go to the floor, and trying to figure out which bills we want to focus on, which ones people want to know about, which ones will have big impact, which ones make for good TV stories, which ones are just kind of eat your vegetable stories that people need to know about, whether or not it's really compelling stuff. That's certainly been the challenge, but I've had a lot of people that have reached out and have been thankful for our coverage, and that really makes the extra effort worth it. Well,
in our next segment, we're going to talk about each of those 80 bills. No, we're not. But also, Chris was a winner of 2 Emmy Awards at the recent Mid-South Emmys. You were the rising. You won the first ever. You're the inaugural winner. Nobody can ever be first other than you for the Rising Star Award, which I think is totally appropriate that you received. But your other Emmy, what was the story that you won that for?
It was actually a breaking news story about, I think it was a year ago this week. It was that kind of crazy windstorm that came through in early March of last year. We just happened to be up in Clarksville working on another story and shot up to Oak Grove, Kentucky, where full semis were being blown over on the interstate. It was a pretty crazy situation. We were actually pretty close to one when it toppled over, and talked to a driver trying to hold his truck, for being flipped and that sort of thing. And so that was in the breaking news category. And thank you for mentioning the Rising Star. Totally unexpected and really appreciated. But it is the first as the named after the former Emmy chapter president, Geneva. But the last true Rising Star award, because it went dormant for about 15 years, was MTSU's own Nick Duggar, who a lot of people in Murfreesboro will know.
Yeah,
so
and
it's
Nick,
nice to be able to share that with a friend.
And Nick, by the way, is now the executive director of the Mid-South Emmy Awards, and that happened just here in the last week or so. Also, your colleague and also friend of this show, Forrest Sanders, needs to buy a new pickup truck every time the Emmy Awards come around, because he carries off a bunch of them.
Absolutely. Another great MTSU alum. And I joke, where'd you park the U-Haul this year for us to pick up all of the statues? So it was a great night for him.
All right, we're going to take a break. Chris Davis, Capitol Hill reporter for NewsChannel 5, is our guest. And we're going to be diving into some of the issues that the legislature is considering this session in our next segment right here on WGNS.
When it comes to your home, memories and sentimental value are priceless. Farrah Construction can remodel your home, or we can update your kitchen, bath, or other rooms. I'm Ron Hall. If you can dream it, Farrah Construction can turn it into reality. Call Farrah Construction at 615-893-6120. That's Farrah Construction. I'm Ron Hall. Shop local. Let our family business help you. Farrah Construction Company.
Getting the kids to practice on time. Remembering if it's your day to bring snacks. Making it to the game with a clean jersey. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like whether your kid is going to run toward first or third base. That's simple human sense.
Rayburn Insurance in Smyrna.
Come see me, Rick Hall, at Rayburn Insurance in downtown Smyrna today.
Online at rayburn.net.
Learn to make money 5 ways with rental real estate. Double your money with apartments. And get your map to financial freedom. And that map starts with a free workshop. Sign up now at lifestylesunlimited.com. Click on the Join Free Workshop tab and attend online or in person. That's lifestylesunlimited.com. lifestylesunlimited.com. Again, that's lifestylesunlimited.com. Limited seating, unlimited potential.
Looking for something to take your mind off this traffic? How about a true story of instant success? Did you hear about the 2 friends who went grocery shopping in Ashland City and picked up everything on their list plus $75,000? Or the one where a truck driver made a last-minute stop off Interstate 40 and drove off with a cool $1 million? All their lives changed in an instant, and yours could too. So stop by your local retailer for your chance with instant games from the Tennessee Lottery. Game-changing, life-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
We have something in the library that I've been working with, and that's a shelf of Adams Place authors. Quite a few books that have been written by people who lived here. That's a highlight in the library that I'm proud of.
Margaret Ordubadian.
And we didn't consider any other place. This was it.
I'm Terry Deal. Call me about Adams Place. Phone 615-904-9111. Memorial Boulevard, across from Walmart.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the law offices of John Day.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the law offices of John Day. For more than 30 years, my team and I have worked hard to help injured people throughout Middle Tennessee. Over that time, we've helped thousands of people get the legal help they need when they've needed it the most. And if we're not able to help or aren't the right lawyer for you, we'll do the best to point you in the right direction. If you've been injured, call the law offices of John Day for a free consultation. And remember, there's no fee unless we win your case.
WGNS reminds you, this is the weekend to spring forward. Set your clock ahead 1 hour before you go to bed this Saturday night. And this Saturday morning is the 13th annual Special Kids Race. It begins at 7 o'clock Saturday morning, and that's at the Murfreesboro Medical Clinic and Surgery Center. For more information, get in touch with Special Kids. The Red Cross is still critically low on blood. Give blood to the Red Cross. Phone the Red Cross at 800-RED-CROSS and make an appointment to give blood at a time that fits your schedule. Put this on your calendar. The Tennessee Philharmonic's Music Excellence Award presents a family concert, not this weekend, but next weekend, Saturday at 7 o'clock in the evening at Bel Air Baptist Church. It is free. And there are 2 productions wrapping up this weekend. Dear Miss Barrett at the Center for the Arts in Uptown Murfreesboro, along with The Adventures of Tom Sawyer at the Art Center of Cannon County in neighboring Woodbury. This weekend, the final performance for both of those. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
A few spotty rain showers early this afternoon, otherwise cloudy skies, a high in the mid-60s. Tonight, mostly cloudy and low near 52. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 55.
Broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios, MTE has provided light, comfort, and connection to our community since 1936. As your trusted energy advisor, MTE is always here to help. Connect online or download the My MTE app.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back into the Wednesday Roundtable. Chip Walters here from Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates in the Blue Raider Network. Last night, big win by the Blue Raider basketball team as they now have sole possession of 4th place in Conference USA after beating Liberty. And tonight, the Lady Raiders are in Lynchburg, Virginia to take on Liberty and try to preserve their undefeated record in Conference USA. That will be at 6 p.m. The tip. Dick Palmer has it beginning at 5:30. So that'll all be right here on WGNS. Chris Davis, the Capitol Hill reporter for News Channel 5, joins us from News Channel 5's HQ there on James Robertson Parkway in the shadows of the state Capitol building. I guess one thing about that is if you need to run to the office for something, it doesn't take very long, does it?
Yeah, there are a lot of other working journalists at the Capitol that have to either, there's a media workroom, but we can usually come back to the comfy abode of the newsroom when we have time. Sometimes we have to just park up there. But, that is really nice. When something breaks, we can get there quick.
Yep. Who when you took over that role, what of the grizzled veteran Capitol Hill press corps kind of took you under the wing and gave you good information of how to go about covering everything that was trying to go on or how to not worry about everything that's going on, but to prioritize?
Certainly within House, News Channel 5, Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams continues to be a great resource. He knows a lot of the moving and shaking up there. But another friend of the show, because I've been on there with him before, Sam Stockard, has certainly been helpful. Andy Scher, who's now with the State Affairs outlet, has been certainly helpful. And then, just really in general, while we are technically all media competitors, much like, with radio and all things, we all support each other if there's a way to support. We're competitive and we all want to get our own scoops and that sort of thing. But really anybody up there, if you say, hey, can you help me? Do you know who to call on this? Sometimes that can certainly be an asset up there.
Yep. Well, the legislative session is in full gear, and there's several overarching issues that the legislature is dealing with right now, and obviously one of them is within education and the thoughts of charter schools, vouchers, how that's working, and it seemed, interestingly enough, it seems that the biggest battle regarding vouchers is not what the Republicans have and what the Democrats have. It is within the Republican Party and three different plans that they're trying to move through. And I guess kind of give us a little bit of a cliff notes of what that's looking like.
Well, sure, Chip. Usually on a big piece of legislation like this, you might see small differences between the chambers on something. These are sweeping changes between the chambers. So for one, you have kind of the framework bill, which is authored by Governor Lee's office. And it says the first year there would be 20,000 vouchers made available for someone to take their child out of public school and get $7,000 in tax money to be able to put that towards private school education or other associated education costs. That's kind of the base framework bill. 20,000 the first year, it could expand after that, and there would not be economic caps. So the first year it would have to be families that are in economic need of this help. In years to come, anybody who was already enrolled in private school could potentially take those scholarships. That's the governor's plan. Then you have the Senate plan, which takes an element of the governor's plan of the 20,000 vouchers and kind of that framework. But then it also makes a big change to public schools to essentially make them open enrollment schools. So say if your child went to Stewart's Creek Elementary School and you wanted to go across the border into Williamson County to Ravenwood Elementary School, you could, if they had space for you, you could apply to transfer as long as the parents could provide that transportation and cross county lines.
You could change
within the county.
You could change districts even.
You could change districts. You could change within the district, but the school would have to approve it and say that there's space for it. So that's a huge change. And there's lots of questions about, like, for instance, Williamson County taxpayers put more money into their education than some others. And so would the state have to make up that difference? That lots of questions that involved with that. But that is kind of the centerstone project of the Senate option. And then the House version is even more expansive. I've called it a laundry list because it really is a lot of things that, quite honestly, teachers and Democrats have asked for years. It would increase what the state pays for a teacher's insurance policy, taking some of that burden away from the counties. That's something that the counties have asked for a long time. It would make it to where if you are a veteran teacher that gets really good, remarks, and evaluations, you wouldn't have to be evaluated every year. It would end the achievement school district, which has been controversial at times. It is literally, it's a 37-page omnibus bill. And, kind of where the politics get interesting on this, if you ask Democrats up on the Hill, they love some of the provisions in that House bill, but they can't support and won't support the voucher aspect of it. So you have these three competing plans, all wanting to do very different things. And if you follow legislatures, there can only be one bill that passes both chambers and goes to the governor, which is where things are going to get interesting. I think we are bound for what's called a conference committee, where representatives from both bodies come in, they hash it out, they see what they can agree on, they see what they can't. They could walk away totally from the table and say, we can't get any of this done. That's what's going to be really interesting. I think it's easily the fiercest fight we will see up at the legislature this year.
That's really interesting, and I think from, here I am, Joe Blow on the street, that the biggest pushback on all of this is coming from the counties and city school districts across the state, because I can't imagine being a director of schools, whether it's here in Rutherford County or Johnson County or Shelby County, that to try to do budgeting when, as far as, all this is concerned, when you're looking at, right now it's $50-60 million to build a new school in Rutherford County, and that's even when you use the same set of plans. And you could have, or you look at Cannon County, and while Rutherford County has a very successful, maybe whether it's Cannon or another rural county, parents who want to go to a bigger district and all of that, really, there's a lot of stuff. It's going to be interesting to see if they can get anything to a conclusion this session.
And to your point, Chip, just last night, the Wilson County superintendent in their school board meeting went off about what an awful idea he feels like this is. I think one thing that is important for your listeners to keep in mind, last year, the state legislature changed how the state funds schools to where the schools now get paid and the districts get paid based off the number of students enrolled. So if you take students out of these public schools, it's going to impact the amount of funding that these public schools have. So the argument is, this only impacts 20,000 or so students. But if you have a county where that is really sought after, that could really impact the funding that the district gets, because now the funding for each student follows the student where they go versus how they used to do it for years in the past.
Well, you mentioned Wilson County. There have been some school systems, in particular up on the Cumberland Plateau, who have been very vocal with their representatives about this, and I guess it was Phil Williams who was in the State House, or it could have been you, asking certain representatives, are you, since your constituents are very much against this, but you're going to continue to push this, and he couldn't push the elevator button quick enough.
Yeah, it really puts a lot of these representatives in a tough position, because especially, you mentioned Cannon County, some of these rural counties, not only is the school system the largest employer in some of these counties, people love their neighborhood schools.
Oh, boy, do they ever.
And think about Friday nights in football and the allegiances and the traditions that are made there. And so I think there are going to be some representatives that are going to have to decide, do they want to potentially make a lot of their voters angry, or there is a lot of special interest invested into how this vote goes, and a lot of threats made on, if you don't support this, we're going to find somebody that will primary you. I think a lot of representatives are going to have to make that call. Do I want to risk a tough challenge in an election? Do I want to risk, Grandma Jenkins yelling at me when I'm at the grocery store? I think it's going to be, it's going to be an interesting development as the session moves forwards. And I think this will be a battle to the very end until that last gavel falls.
Well, and if you want to any idea of what community schools mean to their communities, just go over to Murphy Center, because about 9 minutes ago, the girls' state basketball tournament got underway with the Class 4A quarterfinals, and you will see just how much people do like their community schools. Chris is going to be with us for the remainder of the hour, but we're going to change gears. He is going to jump in the NewsChannel 5 vehicle. He said to me in a text, I have to go meet the governor at 10:30. So he's going to join us by phone on the other side of the break. We're going to let him get on the road, and we'll continue on the Roundtable right after this. So, Chris, get ready to answer a phone call from us here shortly. Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
Here at Bud's Tire, we make buying Michelin tires simpler. I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We offer a straightforward approach to service, including nationwide warranties with every purchase. Stop in today to see our full lineup of Michelin and BF Goodrich tires. For whatever you drive, Michelin and BF Goodrich have a tire to fit any need. Bud's Tire Pros, hassle-free, guaranteed. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
As a leader in environmental services, sustainability is deeply integrated into our business model. At Middle Point Landfill, we are environmentalists at heart. We use a cutting-edge technology in combination with our deep experience in recycling and waste services to protect our environment and our neighbors. That's our job, and that's our promise. This is Mike Klassen with Middle Point Landfill. We invite you to learn more about us at middlepointlandfill.com. Republic Services. We are sustainability in action.
This message for all the men out there. Ladies, cover your ears. If you've been feeling tired and grumpy and have noticed a lack of motivation and drive, have weight gain and loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone levels. And at Low T Center, they make it quick and easy to get your levels checked. It's as simple as a blood test with their on-site lab, and they'll get your results back in about 25 minutes. What I love about Low T Center is it's geared towards us, men. They know we don't like to wait around. They know we're impatient, and they know that we like things simple. For me, at times, that means making things a little more simple to understand, too, because we're guys, and we're more focused on heading home to start working on that project car in the garage. Who knows what you're thinking? We're guys, there's no telling. But let me recommend Low T Center. Most health insurance is accepted for treatment there, and they have the affordable and convenient treatment options that include physician-monitored, self-inject, at-home treatment for their established patients, shipping treatments directly to you. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back into the Wednesday Roundtable. Chip Walters with you. Chris Davis, the Capitol Hill reporter for NewsChannel 5, jumping in the news cruiser, heading to meet with the governor. He has something going on today. And Chris, what does the governor have going on?
So he is doing a visit up in Pleasant View at the Pleasant View Elementary School. But usually, about once a week or so, he will open up some of his public events to members of the media and reporters. And so this would be a great chance, actually, for us to be able to ask him about the school voucher expansion. So we're taking that opportunity and hitting the road.
Well, one of the other stories that came out pretty recently, matter of fact, a couple of days ago, you did a story regarding the tourism department and Mark Ezell, the commissioner of tourism. They want to seal some public records regarding the new Titan Stadium because of, I guess, to keep some of the information public or quiet about when they're recruiting major events, because they're going to go after the Super Bowl. They're going to go after the College Football National Championship. They're going to go after the Final Four, the major events. Kind of take us through what their reasoning is and what they hope the end result is.
Sure, Chip. I'm glad we're talking about this. So essentially, when a city puts in a bid for all those big events that you mentioned, there's a lot of negotiating. In fact, when Minneapolis did their most recent Super Bowl bid a few years ago, an outlet, a newspaper, got a copy of some of the requests, and it was everything from letting NFL executives get free rounds of golf to, luxury accommodations and parking and that sort of thing, kind of the benefits that maybe put one city over the other. The state feels like they're at a disadvantage if some of that information can be accessed by the public or requested by media outlets or members of the public. And so they're saying that we don't, we want to be able to decide which of those documents we feel like are sensitive. But where the state proposed law goes further than a lot of other states, it would seal those records for 5 years. They could ask for an extension. It could go up to 10 years, and those records can be sealed long after the event is held. So if Nashville gets a Super Bowl, as is widely expected, you might not be able to access, some of those documents until 2034. And also the state has a provision where they only have to keep contracts for 6 years. So there's the danger, there's the concern from some open government advocates that what if, they seal it for 10 years and then, those documents can be destroyed legally and the public never gets to see it.
Yeah, they could be destroyed before the privacy.
But also not, be at a disadvantage.
Yeah. So interesting there, but I get, obviously the open government part of it, but there's also, and I think Mark Ezell and the tourism department are talking about, to get in the game, you have to play the game, and
absolutely,
and there's a lot of, and this is where state government has to act like a private business to some degree when it comes to doing the things you have to do to get some of those big events.
No question. I mean, and I think that's certainly the argument from the state is, hey, we want to be a big player. We want to host the Super Bowl. We want to host March Madness. And other states have an advantage because a lot of that negotiation process is sealed. On the other side, you have open government advocates that say, hey, we have no problem with, while you're in negotiations, of keeping that sealed. We just want to kind of see what you did after the fact. And so I think there's valid arguments on both sides of this. It makes it an interesting bill.
It does, for sure. And what is the timetable on that? And what is so far? What's coming off the sounding board from each house?
Right now, they're very much in the committee process for this bill. So, and the House and Senate have different rules, but basically, a bill has to travel through multiple committees on each side before it comes to a full floor vote. It's still a kind of in the early process in both chambers. So you're going to hear more testimony from this because we got to hear from Mark Ezell directly the last time it was in committee. You're going to hear open government advocates speak on this throughout the process. Once it gets to a floor vote, those experts can't come in and talk, but that's why it's interesting to cover these bills in the committee process because stakeholders can weigh in and give some insight.
The another hot button issue each and every year and is the abortion issue, and it has taken a bit of a new turn with recent events in Alabama with in vitro fertilization, things like that. And there was an abortion bill that did pass the Senate and went to the governor's desk. Kind of give us an idea of where things stand there.
Yeah, Tennessee years ago did a trigger law, essentially saying if Roe versus Wade ever was struck down by the Supreme Court, which it eventually did,
right,
Tennessee would right away be able to ban abortion in most instances. There was a very narrow exception that passed last year saying if the life of the mother was in jeopardy, that in that rare instance, that could certainly be done. There have been multiple bills filed this year in hopes of expanding that exception even more. There's also been some bills amended to kind of address, like what you said with the Alabama in vitro fertilization ruling. I have talked with Republican leaders in the House and Senate, and it does not seem like they have any direct desire to do anything that inhibits in vitro fertilization in Tennessee. However, there was a bill that would basically enshrine that in law and protect that, and that bill failed in House committees yesterday. So certainly an evolving issue. A lot of parents, a lot of just Tennesseans in general, United States citizens in general, that are really curious to see how this will evolve stemming from that Alabama Supreme Court decision. But it doesn't seem like there's a huge appetite for that in Tennessee, but certainly also the protection for it stalled out yesterday in the House. So,
well, and over the last 9 months or so, on the national level, Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama held up all these military promotions due to the abortion issue, and those who were wishing or needing abortions were being reimbursed for travel from one state that did not allow to another state that did, and that came down. Obviously it was a national issue, but had state ramifications because of different laws in each state that did or did not allow. So that was kind of interesting how that played out.
Sure, and to your point, too, there is another abortion-related bill that is moving through the legislature that would make it a criminal penalty if an adult took a child without parental permission out of state to go get an abortion, which is controversial on each side of that. Certainly, you have some, abortion access advocates that say, this is vital health care. People need to have that option. And then you have another contingency that says, hey, if they're a minor, that's a parent's call. And so that's certainly an interesting bill that's moving through as well. I think you're going to see lots of different state legislatures try to take that up until, if ever, there is some congressional action on a federal level that says, hey, this is our rule or this isn't. But it's definitely a hot button issue with lots of emotions connected to it.
All right, let's talk money, finances across the state and in state government. This year, the state had a $67 million shortfall of revenue expectations. So that has had ramifications on different things. One of those that is in the, you go from Capitol Hill to Tiger Hill here in Murfreesboro, something that hits on Main Street is that there will not be a grocery tax freedom period this year, correct?
That is correct. So last year we saw a 3-month holiday. The year before that we saw a month holiday. That was evidently a casualty of growth projections not hitting what they expected. I think that's an important caveat, Chip. It's not that we are suddenly losing money. It was just that we were getting so much money at such a quick rate. The analysts at the state thought that trend was going to continue, and instead it's more of a flattening curve. And then there are also just kind of other expensive wish list items from the governor, including the voucher program that costs a lot of money. And so one of the casualties was that grocery sales tax holiday. There's another bill that would give a sales tax holiday for infant diapers and formula. That also looks to be not in the cards this year just because revenue projections are kind of flattening out for the state of Tennessee. So you can't add on new programs. It's more of sustaining the ones we already have or hitting that wish list from the governor.
Part of the budget process as well that is always something that is of interest here in this county where you went to college, and also your home county where you grew up, where Austin Peay State University is there's not a lot of expectation that state government is going to approve a lot of building projects this year on college campuses. It's been a robust program, but I think this year is not one where I think a lot is expected.
Yeah, I think you're seeing, kind of allocation. Funds being put towards road projects instead of some university projects. But yeah, that makes it puts great institutions like MTSU and Austin Peay in difficult situations because you have these master plans that are thought out decades and decades in advance. And if you can't get that funding as a state institution, that it requires you to go back to the drawing board or delay some of those projects that are certainly needed. So, I think you have a lot of those higher education institutions going, we may have to to hold off on that until we can fight for that funding again.
Speaking of road projects, obviously I-24 is in the crosshairs of everybody who has to make that commute from Murfreesboro to Nashville or every day, and they're talking about the smart lane projects, and which is and also priority lane projects to where you would have almost like in Florida, you go and you see the fast pass, things like that. What are you hearing out of the Department of Transportation as far as what their vision and their goal to reduce traffic on the I-24 corridor between Murfreesboro and Nashville? Because you already have the new camera system that is supposed to help alleviate some of the caterpillar effect on the interstate if you follow what is shown up on the LED boards moving into town.
Sure. I mean, I think they are very much committed to this choice lane project, as they call it. Essentially, it would be an additional toll lane that is built to the side of, in the 24 Murfreesboro corridor is what they expect will be the first landing spot for this project. And the thought is, if you've got someone that's running late or maybe just driving through Tennessee and they don't want to sit through traffic, they can pay a market rate that they determine to a private company that's operating these and get off the main roadway, which they hope, if enough cars opt to say, hey, I'll pay to not sit in this traffic, it'll alleviate the other lanes. I think an important distinction to mention on this, Chip, though, is this is not going to be a fast fix. You're not going to wake up one day and see them open for business. This is at least 6 years out, because you have to get the right-of-way of land. You have to find a contractor. You have to do environmental studies. You have to build the lanes. You have to do all of the prep work that goes in it. Government does not move at a very quick pace. And so the argument is these privately run choice lanes would give revenue to the state, which would make it possible to fund other road projects. So that's at least the argument, but it's certainly been met with some skepticism, especially for those that make that drive every day going, how much is one lane of traffic going to make a big difference in the grand scheme of things?
Well, and then there's also the another big ideal type project or ideal of public transportation and the expansion of public transportation, light rail. We hear a lot of that. And it seems like everybody says they like the idea of it, but Tennesseans like their cars much, and they like their freedom to do what they want to do. While you may get 70% of the public or whatever the number is likes the idea of that. What is the actual numbers of people who are going to use it?
Well, I think one thing that will definitely have to happen if that's ever going to be a reality in Tennessee is right now it is against state law to pay for transportation projects where we don't already have the money up front. In Tennessee, you cannot borrow money to build roads. It was a provision decades ago in the Tennessee Code annotated. So if you ever wanted to see a light rail system built in Tennessee, first, I think they're going to have to amend that law and say, hey, we can put out bonds to be able to pay for this, because those type of big infrastructure projects, the state just isn't going to have money sitting in the bank ready for that. It's going to take bonds and financing money to be able to do that. So I think that's the first big hurdle to do that, because I don't think the choice lane program is going to make billions and billions and billions of dollars to where you could suddenly build out a rail system.
All right, we've got about a minute or so left. What is on your plate, and what do you that we haven't talked about you feel like are going to be big issues for the remainder of the session?
A big bill to watch is one from Representative William Lambert that would say if you are not mentally fit to stand trial, that you can have your firearms taken away from you, and also you would be committed to a mental institution. The problem with that bill is it's pretty expensive, and as we've talked about, state revenue's down, so it's been placed what's called behind the budget, which means once they finalize the other big projects, they'll look back at that. But that has certainly been a bill to watch. I think it'll get a lot of debate if it moves forward, but right now it's kind of been hit with a pause button to see how the other parts of the budget come into place.
One quick other one I wanted to ask you about, and you did a story on this about digital IDs. Tell us about that real quick, and how would that work if it passed?
Much like if you go to a sporting event like a Titans game where they have a digital ticket in your Apple Wallet or your Android wallet, it would give that option to have a Tennessee license version of that, where you could have it stored on your phone. If you forget your wallet or purse at home, you would have that in your phone to where you could show your ID, and it works essentially the same way. That is currently in the works. We're expecting the state to have some sort of announcement about that relatively soon on when we could potentially start seeing that in our phones.
So that would be in addition to, but not instead of, your normal driver's license.
It would not replace it. It would just be another option, and there's supposed to be technology attached to that to make it really hard to fake and that sort of thing.
Good deal. Chris, thanks so much, and always enlightening. And when we have you on, it's like, why in the world do they not have civics class anymore? Because you are one of our civics teachers on state government, and appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. It's an honor, Chip. Always happy to be on the program.
Thank you, my man. Tell the governor we said what's up, okay?
will do.
All right, thanks a lot. Chris Davis, our guest today, Capitol Hill reporter from News Channel 5, very enlightening on several subjects today. If you missed any of the show, you can go back and check it out on the podcast. Coming up very soon on WGNSradio.com. Next week's show, not exactly sure who's going to be on just yet, but it will probably be coming to you from Huntsville, Alabama side of the Conference USA basketball tournament. Brian Barrett is coming up next, and be sure to listen in, and be sure to be kind to our guests who are in town this week and next week for TSSAA basketball. We'll talk to you later. Chip Walters here saying good day from WGNS.